Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Today we're going to have a conversation, and we thought, and we is Eduard, who will shortly introduce himself, and Pim. Welcome, Pim, for joining.
Thanks.
We'll introduce themselves, but we thought it's a good time to have a conversation about trust, security, privacy. It's a broad range of topics, but we thought it is a good idea to have a conversation about it. We are operating in the Microsoft partner ecosystem, and we asked some of our partners, what does this mean for you? And we got various feedback, various questions. So we thought it's just a good idea to have a conversation. So this is today's session, an open conversation of 45 minutes. We've gathered some theses on these topics, and we're just going to discuss them. But before we do, let me quickly run you through the agenda for today. So a little bit more about why we have these conversations will follow shortly. Then a short introduction from Newblack. Pim is here, our ISV partner, operating in retail, but he will tell us much more about it later on. And then we'll start the conversation. And after 45 minutes, we just end. And then that's that for today. We will have multiple of these conversations, and we are extremely looking forward. My name is Marcel Nieuwpoort. I'm a partner technology strategist in the Microsoft partner system. And let me introduce and hand over to my fellow colleague, Eduard.
Yeah, I'm Eduard Valkenburg. I'm a senior cloud solution architect on data and AI within the Microsoft Partner Group. So I work with partners like Newblack on getting their solutions online and compliant and trusting and all that stuff.
And secure.
And secure, yeah.
Fantastic.
One, yeah.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for joining me in this conversation. Pim.
I'm Pim Vijftigschild. First of all, thank you for having me today.
Yeah.
I'm the Chief Compliance Officer within Newblack.
Yeah.
That sounds nice. What's compliance then?
Yeah.
But compliance in our case is a little bit wider than just data, governance, security. It also entails everything around fiscalization, digital tax reporting, and e-invoicing, which are basically the biggest topics in retail right now.
Yeah, fantastic. And super happy to have you here. And I know Newblack for a couple of years now. I still remember your CEO, Steven, who joined me during an EBC in Redmond. And by then I was already amazed by what you're doing in retail and truly transforming retail as such. Maybe as a good starter, go back one layer deep. I know for retail, conversations on trust and security and privacy are different than maybe in other industries, right?
Yeah.
But we thought we'd try to focus on a couple of industries, and you're the first. So thank you for being our guinea pig to have these conversations. But we thought, what does it mean for your customers? What does it mean for you as an ISV partner? How do you build your solution? What type of questions do you get? So we'll have a broad range of conversations. But for us, it's also learning. We want to learn from you. Yeah. What do you hear? Yeah. Because we, from Microsoft, don't always hear the full story. You have to deal with it every single day with the end customer, so to speak, our joint end customer sometimes. So we are just here also on a learning trip. We want to learn. Yeah. What do we do well? Where can we improve? What do you hear?
What do we forget?
What do we forget? What does it mean? So that's just the reason and the why for this conversation today. I'll hand you over. You got 5 minutes to do a Newblack pitch and tell us a little bit what does Newblack do, and maybe your role in the organization.
Yeah. Well, Newblack is their mission of Newblack is helping retailers to become adaptive to change. Yeah. And we do that by delivering a SaaS platform. We call it a unified commerce platform as a service. But that basically means that we develop software that retailers can use, for example, for the order management, POS, mobile POS.
POS is point of sales, right?
Point of sale, indeed. I'm sorry, point of sale. Yeah. The old-fashioned cash register.
Yes.
But also things like headless commerce, which is the new trend. So we have built that all in one platform, and it basically helps retailers to run almost their full operation on our platform. However, that normally takes some time. So you see a small project starting, and then we move ahead, and then it's like growing. And
do you have an example of a customer currently using your system?
Yeah, we have a multitude of clients. I think Rituals is a nice example.
Yeah. We all know Rituals.
Yeah. Grand Vision is a nice example.
Yeah. Okay.
Intersport.
Yeah.
Scotch and Soda, G-Star, companies like that.
Okay.
But I think it's more important. I think the most important thing is we help customers who want to do something around associated selling.
Okay.
Has a transformative mindset.
Yeah.
And we help them with that.
And associated selling, you mean there's somebody
In
store, on the shopping floor, trying to sell to customers, right?
Yeah. Okay. And I think especially what makes us different than most other companies is that I think there are three big pillars where we make a big difference than other companies. Is that we said, okay, if you look at the past, the last 5 years, and I think that's also the good starting point for our conversation about data, is if you look back in the last, perhaps still the last 3 years, most companies are talking about happy processes, happy flows, non-happy flows, and then they are trying to fix that in a nice ERP system.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they're going to build a siloed organization.
Yeah.
And then based on non-real-time information, we're trying to serve customers.
That's both customers in the store and online.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
This is basically what we in retail was, because everyone was selling ERP,
Yeah.
and we built the organization on top of ERP,
Yeah.
which was okay. However, we came from a store operation to a multi-channel organization, e-commerce and stores, and then we're trying now omni-channel, which makes it then quite hard. So you're building basically a Frankenstack in that way. Yeah. So we said, if that's the case, and it wasn't a big issue until the pandemic hit in, because then organizations had to change overnight.
Yeah.
So would you say that Corona speeded up the digital transformation of retail?
Of course, inevitably, because you had to.
They had to ship, stores were closed.
If you didn't do it, you were out of the game.
Yeah,
I think IKEA is a good example. They didn't do any online selling, or hardly any, and suddenly they had to have pickup points and all of that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And they still have it now, even though they can open the stores again.
And on the other hand, so what we said is, so if you change that pyramid and you make it a funnel, and you start serving customers, we know one thing for certain: there will be new touch points tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. We don't know. No. We don't know how they look like.
The metaverse,
could be, but we don't know which one. But we know they are there. Yeah. And if you have those touch points, and you have interaction with the touch points, those transactions, or basically those interactions, should lead to a transaction. Because in retail, it's all about a transaction. In the end.
It's about the funnel.
Indeed, and then the process becomes a consequence of the transaction. Okay. Meaning, in the end, there are only 3 processes.
So why are you so successful? What does Newblack do so well?
I think it all has to do with starting first, cut the crap.
Okay.
So
that's your mission, right?
That's the mission. It's not the mission. It's our tagline.
Yeah.
Just doing things.
Okay.
Instead of having hours and hours and hours conversation, just doing things. Try it.
Yeah.
And I think what we also did, from a compliance perspective, we did 2 things. We are unified by design.
Yeah.
So we always talk about, okay, online, offline flow, how does it work?
Yeah.
And then if you're going to talk about that, then compliance by design is the next thing what you should do.
Okay.
Because compliance is not something you do on a finance or on the legal department. It's something that is intertwined in a normal business. Okay. If e-commerce does have no people who are thinking about compliance, then there is always an issue later, or retail, or...
Interesting. Yeah. So Newblack is, I mean, you are onboarding new customers, and it goes really, really well. We asked you to have a conversation. You also have the title of Compliance Officer, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, I'm responsible for global certification and fiscalization. Okay. Fiscalization is something different than most people think. Fiscalization means basically that our systems should be certified by a local tax authority in a particular country. Yeah. So, for example, France and a 525. Yeah. And that has basically to do with certain things. If you do a transaction, can you record the transaction properly? Yeah. If you do reporting, can you report properly? Yeah. If you do archiving, do you archive properly? And is it safe? Okay. And that's basically tax legislation that's basically going really fast. More and more countries are doing that. And I think that's coming due to the last crisis we had, not the pandemic, but the last economic crisis, is that companies are focusing, or countries are focusing, not companies, countries are focusing on indirect tax, which is basically their new business model. Okay.
And you understand this really well, so that's also a reason probably why some really big names are, your customers today.
Yeah, I think what we we try to do things a little bit in a remarkable way.
Yeah.
So if everyone is saying, as a retailer, you need to fix it yourself,
Yeah.
then we think, why don't we fix it? Because if I do it in one country and
I
I
can
have
do it
more,
here.
and I have more retailers in the same country, then basically I do it once and it's there. So make it more easy.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
That's smart.
Understood. Any wishes? So you're Newblack, you are revolutionizing retail. What's on the wish list? The highest customer you really would love to serve? I always have a wish list, so...
I think if we are companies like Nike,
Yeah,
let's say the big American,
Yeah.
all American brands like
Yeah.
Nike, Lululemon's Canadian,
Yeah.
Estee Lauder, those companies,
then...
Really global retailers.
yeah. The brands where people say the lighthouse cases, basically.
Okay,
If
so
they were
let's
doing
partner and let's make sure that we help
So
them.
grabbing
and to
together.
be fair, we in the collaboration that we have since since a year, I think basically like that.
Yeah,
It's growing really fast, and I think we found a partner in Microsoft who understands basically the game.
yeah, okay.
And
nice to hear.
we can saying a lot of people are saying ISV Microsoft, but it's the same like a customer. You need, if you put in a lot of energy in it, you get a lot out of it.
And I think, and that's also bottom line for us. If we see that, and in this case, Newblack and Microsoft together can make 3 instead of 2, then we have something, right? Then we are onto something. And I think we both believe that is the case. So again, super thrilled to partner and to work together. Let's start the conversation. We prepared 8 theses together. Not sure if we're going to make them all today, but let's try. And let's just start with the first one. Thesis number 1. Do we need data governance?
I think it's cool if you kick off.
Sure. I think the question is pretty self-explanatory. That yes, the answer is yes. We do need data governance, and I think there's 2 components to it. One is there's a lot of compliance demands now. GDPR. There's a new AI Act coming in Europe. California is really pushing that as well. So just from a compliance perspective, we already need some data governance in order to be able to say, my customer wants to know which data they have or I have of them.
Yeah.
How do I answer the question if you don't have governance?
Is it also in one sentence the main goal of doing data governance? So you can tell your customers what data you have of them?
I think that's part of it, because the other part, and to me the more interesting part, is that if you do this well, you get control over your data, you get insights in what data you have, and that means you can start leveraging that data to build new opportunities on top. And I think Newblack is a good example, taking the data of the whole retail process and then being smart about combining things, adding value on top of just the processes. That's where data governance also plays a role, because it's if you do it well, it becomes a business opportunity and not just some compliance.
A cost, a bottom line cost.
Yeah.
Your perspective?
Well, I see it a little bit more simple, perhaps, than you do, is that it's really simple. In the legislation, it's mentioned like this. If we have a merchant, we call them always merchant, a client, a customer.
Yeah.
A customer is owner of the data.
Yeah.
So without data governance, we are just the processor. Yeah, and we, Newblack and Microsoft, we are just the processor.
True.
So without, process is already saying it, you need to have a form of governance to get that fixed. And it's really simple. You need to follow those customer instructions from a GDPR perspective.
I agree.
So you need data governance. But that's the privacy part.
Yeah.
Where most companies are talking about. If you look at it from a tax perspective, then it's also part of that. Because the tax perspective basically is saying how much tax do you need to pay, and what you see, and I think that's a bigger trend, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's like a wave. It's growing, but I think a lot of retailers don't understand it yet, or not.
It gets less attention than privacy,
indeed,
but it's
indeed. But if you look
potentially more impact.
If you look from a tax perspective, in the last 5 years, basically 10 years, most tax authorities in Europe, but it's basically happening all around the globe, are moving from a push model. Basically, they get the data pushed to a pull model. So they grab the data from you as a retailer in real-time reporting, and then they basically present you with a fait accompli. So saying, hey, you said let's say, on paying VAT, you need to pay this amount.
Yeah. Okay.
And but we think, prove it. And that's a completely different ballgame.
This is an interesting one because we haven't, at least I wasn't aware of this opportunity as well. Because you can also turn it around and see it as an opportunity.
It is an opportunity.
If you are aware, then you know in advance, and being predictable is probably one of the hardest things, but also one of the most highest priorities in enterprise, right? Yeah. Being predictable and knowing what you have to pay on taxes and your revenues and everything else. Then this is an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
What about, because I heard you already saying the privacy perspective, the tax perspective, what about security perspective of data governance? Do you know what type of data you have of your customers and where it resides?
Yeah.
Who has access?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of if you would like to do it in a proper way. I think we're lucky by the fact is that we have compliance as a design as a focus. So I think our biggest challenge is...
By the way, one of the reasons you're here, because I think you're a good example.
No, I think one of my biggest challenge always is, which certification am I going to do?
Okay.
Meaning, I already have a multitude, over 20 certifications for tax legislation on per year, which has an audit, which already fixing privacy, which already fixing other things. So, of course, we have implemented ISO 9001 and 27001 and 17 and 18.
So it's just implementing a tool, right? Data governance.
It's not a tool. It's a way of working.
Okay.
It's a way of working.
Yeah, and I really like that. And there's a fourth aspect to it, which we already discussed quite extensively beforehand. People. What do you do within Newblack? How do you take people along on that journey? Is everybody aware within your company that privacy and data governance is an important part of doing your business?
Yes and no. It's always a challenge.
Yeah.
However, I think due to the fact is that compliance is part of the design process.
Yeah.
So that means that means that people are aware.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good thing. On the other hand, there are sometimes. So what we did is we call it a security tool.
Yeah.
Someone who is basically checking every month. Also on the dark web are some of the passwords and email addresses poked.
Oh wow!
And then those accounts will be immediately shut down, basically.
And revoked. Yeah.
Revoked, and people need to ask for a new password then.
Wow!
And, that makes people quite aware, and we chose to do things like that. I think last year.
Sort of red team within the company.
Yeah. There is a part of that as well. There are some security changes going on within Adyen.
Yeah.
Adyen is a partner for payments.
Yeah.
So we work with them quite closely. And what then will happen is that I think already 8 months before, we are pushing really hard in the internal organization to the strategic leads. Strategic leads are people who are in conversation with our customers.
Yeah.
To the product owners, to the developers. It needs to be changed. It needs to be configured. If you don't do it, then at that moment in time, we will shut you down.
Oh, fantastic.
And that means if we don't do it in that way and we always try to maneuver around it, then you don't fix it.
But by the way, Eduard, do we have a tool to fix data governance?
So we don't have a tool to fix data governance because, like Pim also says, data governance is not a tool that you can just turn on and then you have it fixed. It's about the people and the processes and the culture. And if I hear you, then you've really made sure that you embedded that in the culture of your whole company. That you can't do this without taking care of your data.
Yeah. But there are some tools, by the way.
There are some tools, of course.
The PIA, data privacy impact analysis.
Yeah,
that's a mandatory one. But that's if you do it properly and you put some time in that. That's one. I think the CAIQ is a good one. Consensus impact assessment. The Q is questionnaire, I think.
Questionnaire, probably.
That's basically, I think there are 200 questions basically on privacy. Where are things?
It's like fixed. A framework, probably.
It's a framework, but that framework helps you. Oh, this is basically something that we need to fix. And I think the last one, the new one, is transfer impact assessment.
Yeah.
It's data transfer basically, and that's basically the new one. Yeah. So there are things, but I think they're all frameworks. It's not a tool itself.
Yeah. So in Azure we have a tool called Purview, which solves some of this, but really it's an entry point into getting insight into what data do we have where. But then the next step, which is, do we actually have control over that? Who has access to it? What is the process to change the access? You know, when do you get access and when is the access revoked? All of that stuff, that's all processes around it that you also need to take care of.
Yep.
And there's no tool.
Okay, so we have an answer on thesis 2.
Yeah.
Let's move forward, because we, I think, have a next one. Data privacy is overrated. Only my employees can see it.
It's a good question if it's overrated.
I mean, everybody knows everything, right? So why do we
everybody
keep it so secret?
gives everything away to Facebook and
yeah, exactly.
Google and
everything you give all your data for free. So
but you did it with a purpose to do something.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think let's put it the other way around. If you are going on a website and no better, you talk about going on holiday.
Yeah.
And the next day you only get ads for holiday.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
How come?
What do you think then?
I think somebody's listening to me, which I don't like.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
But basically you accepted it somewhere.
Yeah.
So what I think that data privacy is not overrated.
No.
However, it's the same issue with these topics are too big. It's the same issue with changing the climate.
No, I agree. It's a super big one if you start to talk about it philosophically. If you want to make the world a better place, if you talk about it in that sense, then it's probably too big of a topic to just cover in this conversation. But I mean, the question points towards also. So keeping data private of your customers, that is something you try to solve for every single day, right? And being aware of that, how do you do that?
Yeah, but the big question again is, what wants the customer?
Yeah.
So just an insight, we can keep our data private, but if the customer has outsourced their service desk, they will, and they need to help with orders, they also see the data.
Yeah, true.
And if, let's say, other parts, so the question is, I think there is another question, what would you like to do with the data?
Yeah.
Why are you using it? And what's the next step to do?
The other side is, and the example is, I had the example a couple of months ago during the corona pandemic. We had the Dutch health inspection who was helping with the vaccinations, right?
Yeah.
They hired a lot of people to help vaccinate people.
Yeah.
But some people at the phone desks who were making the appointments with people to get vaccinated had access to all data. And they exported it and they sold all data on the black market.
Yeah.
Then that, in my sense, is a design failure. If somebody can download all data and have access to every single person and can extract it, then that is a design failure, right?
That's true. That's true. However, probably, and that's normally how it goes, developers are in one room, tax privacy compliance people are in another room.
Good point.
They don't talk with each other,
No.
and it all has to do with the satellite organization. So if you, and I think it's not only if you would like to fix omnichannel, you need to break down those silos. But if you would like to fix data privacy, security, things like that, you also need to break down those silos.
Fix it and still keep value, because there's a constant trade-off between giving access to data to your employees so they can do something with it that adds value versus securing the data of a customer.
Yeah.
And if you don't strike that balance and are constantly seeing where do we give a little bit more data to our employees, where we trust them, and in a way that is governable, because I mean that's kind of the key then if you start doing that, while at the same time making sure that you have people, like from a compliance perspective, involved in that dialogue to understand, okay, what are the implications if we do want to share this with all employees, or if we do want to give this report to certain people. So there's a constant trade-off between those two, and I think that is the thing that you need to solve as an organization.
That's a fair trade-off. On the other hand, I mean, we all know these examples, right? Somebody in the hospital that has access to every patient file and can just look up celebrities and why they are in the hospital or something. You know, you hear those stories.
But these are accesses.
No, I agree. So this has something to do with access. On the other hand, you know, masking the data, the privacy of all your customers to keep that contained. That is sort of the balance, and we're trying to figure out where the balance is. And I think that's also moving because people.
Well, and the tools are getting better. So there are more tools to make data very selectively available, to mask certain pieces of data for certain users, and do that in a dynamic way with maybe additional auditing on top of it if you do want to look at a field, but not if you. So there's ways to kind of build up a process, because again, this is not about specific tools. It's about the process.
And there's more to it, right? User access.
There is one thing that we should keep aware is that although we try to do our utmost to get it fixed, we're never gonna fix it 100%.
No, true. So you need to have a plan in place when it goes wrong.
Indeed, and what you should do is you should fix it to your utmost.
Yeah.
But in an acceptable way. You don't want to have.
But even we as Microsoft only guarantee Azure uptime for 99.999 a lot of nights.
Indeed.
We would never say 100%.
No.
Because we can't control, so many things coming together. 100% is a dream, right?
Indeed, but part of data privacy is overrated. Part of that is if it fails and if it goes wrong, is that you have a plan and also a communication plan.
Yeah, exactly. What do your customers say? Because I think this is something I could even get passionate about it.
Yeah, I think the next thesis would be
a good idea. Yeah,
let's move to that. Because this is, for me, so the next thesis, data breach is only a security risk. Yeah. And I think what you're starting to see now is that, yes, it's security risk, obviously, and GDPR fines and all of that. But increasingly,
is it security? The question is it always a security risk?
And
because the big thing is, if I have reasons, I have a role where I can export it, but I have other reasons next to, because I didn't have a good day at work, I don't know, my partner is yelling at me, things like that.
And you thought, I'll export all customer data.
And I got an offer of, if you give it to me, I give you this. Yeah. Then, of course, so we can fix a lot of things. Yeah. However, we can only fix till a certain percentage.
Yeah, so that's what.
So it's a risk, but so you need to mitigate the risk, of course. But it's not only a security risk; it's also.
Do your customers worry?
Of course, they worry. Of course they worry.
Because for us, if we don't do it well, as a public cloud, partner of yours, we can close shop. If we don't do our utmost best.
Oh, I know, and that's. I think for us, it's the same thing. However, the big thing is, in the end, the customer is still responsible. Yeah. So the customer is owner of the data. You're buying something at your customer. Yeah. He is responsible. So although we need to do our utmost to fix it. Yeah. If they haven't thought about how they would like to do it, what they would like to do it, then you still can't fix it.
No, and
I agree. We have created a data processing addendum, DPA, where we have described completely how we do it, including a privacy website where basically everything is explained.
And understandable in an understandable way?
That was the biggest challenge.
Okay.
So without legal terminology, just plain and simple, with a little bit of humor. Yeah. Because otherwise you will not read it. No.
Well, I'm curious. Could you share the link afterwards? I would love to read it.
I will do it, but not on this thing. No. It is because this is shared publicly, and the privacy page is only for customers.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Good. Well done, actually. Yeah. Really well done.
But it's and there we explain it and how it works and what do you need to do and how the framework looks like. Yeah. But there are a lot of things, to be really fair, which we haven't experienced yet. No. We do our utmost, but I never got a question of a government, can you deliver the data?
You have never had it?
No. Okay. I never had, so far...
shopping data of a certain customer.
Indeed.
Yeah, okay.
We never had the question, hey, we see an issue, can you fix that?
Okay.
So far, but something we know it will happen once.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably does.
But the other interesting thing about viewing data privacy as security risk is that at some point, some companies will start to say, "Oh, this is just the cost of doing business."
Yeah.
So the GDPR fine, we'll just pay and then we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
So I think what needs to start happening is that the actual reputation risk that becomes the real.
And that they
risk.
are aware of that.
And that they become aware, and that actually customers say, yeah, if you don't take care of my data, then bye-bye.
Then I'll go to another. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. I already, and I think we sort of touched upon this already, thesis number 5. In security, people are the weakest link. And I will come with a short story, and I can't name any names, but there was a Microsoft customer, and we figured out that they were breached, and there was a lot of other people in their systems looking at their contracts and their new customers and their prospects just to steal business. In the end, we figured out the way they came in was by just bribing people of that company and just saying to them, hey, €1,000 for a day, your password. 5,000 euros for 5 days, your password. And that's how they just bought themselves access. So here the thesis is, in security, people are the weakest link. Is that true?
Yeah, of course it's true, but it's not only. It's only that.
Yeah.
I think last week it's not. I think you heard the story in Germany with the issues with the payment terminals.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Sorry.
Basically, since Friday last week till Monday, you were unable to pay on all the on a certain type of payment terminal, which shut down basically all.
Oh yeah, I heard it. I heard it. Yeah, I heard
most
it.
grocery stores. And what was the reason? There was a certificate
perhaps.
expired.
Yeah.
And
Somebody forgot to renew.
Probably it was mentioned that you need to change it.
Yeah.
And probably something
There were
happened.
some alerts already. Yeah.
However, the issue was there.
Yeah.
And then it hits the business.
Yeah.
So, but it's the same with your kids, isn't it? So if you're saying to your kids, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it, they will do it. Of course they will do it.
Yeah, of course.
So sometimes it needs to happen.
Yeah.
And you need to mitigate the risk as soon as possible. But I'm certain, of course, people are the weakest link.
Yeah.
But also technology is the weakest link.
Yeah.
If you don't invest in your technology after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, it's outdated.
Yeah.
So I think you should see it in a holistic way. It's not only people. It's otherwise we're going to sub-optimization processes and things, and that's exactly what we should not do.
No.
It's a holistic approach of people, IT, framework, education, and if you don't do it, communication, and if you don't trying to change behavior, and if you don't do it in that way from the moment you start a project, you're always screwed.
I agree. And another example is, and you probably we had you just gave the example of the certificates. I had another ISV partner calling me and saying, hey, in the evening, Marcel, we are screwed. We made a mistake. One of our developers just killed a production database. Can you help us return it? So these things also still happen, and it's not only in data governance, but also in security. People are a big part of everything, and you should educate them, communicate with them, have a plan in place there as well. But again, I don't think people proactively within companies talk about this. Do you do that?
Yes and no. Because you don't want to be the messiahs always talking about privacy, because to be really fair, privacy is not the coolest topic to talk about.
So we are having already a 30-minute conversation, and I think it's pretty cool.
But more, these are necessities that you need to fix, commodities that you need to fix, and more necessities that you need to fix. Yeah. And the only way to do that is to, when you're going to design something, is to talk about it. Yeah. What is the topic that we need to fix? Okay. And make use of solutions that are forced to get implemented. I think we use our tax authorities to do so. Yeah. So we learned some things, and we thought, hey, this, by the way, is a pretty good idea. So let's do it in the other countries as well. Yeah. And of course, there are also things that we think, isn't there another way? But if you don't have those conversations, you should have the conversation, but not more than investing in technology or investing in innovation or investing in other things.
No. And make sure that you include it in your technical roadmap, have security always as a topic there. And that is from what I've heard other ISVs are also doing. Try with everything in mind, try to have security horizontally implemented in everything you do. Then it's at least a topic for the mind and the people there. Yeah. Anything to add?
No.
No? Let's move on. MFA is enabled, so we are secure.
Yes and no.
It helps.
It helps.
It helps, right?
One of the.
I think even, and I'm not no security expert, but passwordless is the next step, right? What does that mean? Do you know anything about it? What do you do? MFA. Do you have all your system customers? Do they use MFA to enter your systems?
Yes and no.
It's an option.
SSO is an option.
Yeah.
We have a solution in place where the big thing, what we see at this moment in time still, is, and we try to convince them that everyone should have their own iPhone in store so that they can help their clients.
Yeah,
but that's still a big thing.
Yeah, because you have multiple people, one register, and then logging in and out.
Yeah. So what we did is we have a solution in place where on your Apple Watch every time there is a new QR code generated.
Yeah.
And that gives you access to the system.
Yeah.
But that means that you need something like that.
Yeah.
There is of course a PIN code, but the PIN code is not really secure.
No.
Of course, username and password. You could
takes too long.
Yeah,
and we all know that Hugo de Jonge had a really hard time, setting up his password all the time. So he used another system, right? People always flow through the easiest way.
Of course,
yeah,
of course.
And that makes sense.
I think it's the same with privacy. It's the same with compliance. Make it easy.
Yeah.
And also there, you can't fix everything.
No, but on the other hand, I know we as Microsoft do it more and more. We just demand MFA because one is none. And
no, of course you force it. You force it. But on the other hand, of course you force it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an easy thing by now.
Exactly, and everybody understands it, right? So
again,
it's common good. It's a tool, but it makes sure that
it's only fixing access.
Yeah.
We have a multitude of other things that are also an issue. Exporting.
I agree.
Yeah.
Are you going to do MFA on exporting as well?
Probably
you should.
Okay.
Should. Yeah.
Well, we have things in Azure.
4 ICE principles and that.
Yeah.
And then your colleague is on holiday.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do have things like privileged access and those kinds of, but they're all still tools in.
Indeed.
In finding a way to make people productive while still being secure.
Indeed.
Up to a point.
Yeah. And a lot of it is also, and we as Microsoft invest a lot of money on this topic to make our customers secure, like yours. So what we do is, there's also a lot of logic behind it. And one simple example which we always get if we visit campus and we hear the security story is that if you log in from Amsterdam, you can't log in a half a minute later from India or China or whatever. So there's also a lot of what we try to solve in the back end.
That's not MFA.
No, but that's just from a security perspective. MFA. This is about making your system secure. Yeah. MFA is a tiny part of the whole story. And we try to do our part as Microsoft. You try to do your part, but together we still see that a lot of bad things happening.
Still, most of the breaches that you hear about are because someone's account was hacked.
Yeah,
no, of course.
The system was hacked.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Could you say this one out loud? I'm not going to read it.
Or I trust Azure.
Okay.
Yeah. But the big question is always.
We trust you, by the way.
Yeah. No. By the way, it's funny because I was working on last week on updating our privacy pages because there is new standard clauses, and I was there are standard contractual clauses 2021.
Yeah,
they are launched in September last year by the by the EU Commission to fix basically some of the transfer issues that we have. Yeah. But the fun thing is, clients, that was a big topic. So clients were reaching out to us, but basically when we already had the DPA with them, we have another year to fix it.
Okay.
And I was waiting for you guys
to fix it.
To fix your story on the impact on the transfer.
Yeah.
Because without that, I can't inform my clients. So we're all. So I was basically I finalized it last week because you finalized it I think somewhere in December, October, or a little bit December, January, February. I don't remember. Then there were some updates. Then I know there was another company who was doing a certification. So I thought, well, when that is finalized, I will update.
I can
our
update
storyline.
Within the year. We have everything in place again.
But I trust Azure there, and it's like especially when we talk about the cloud solution, it's like a black box.
Yeah, I agree. We used to have an
people say, yeah, but you can go to the servers.
Yeah.
Cool, I can go to the servers, and I'm walking there. Is there something on that particular server that's the data?
It says Newblack data is here.
No.
No, it doesn't.
So
and it's not easy to get access to the servers, but and even if you're there, indeed. It's
trust, and I'm really happy that there are a lot of certificates and a lot of things like that. But still, I should trust, and trust works like this.
Yeah. And I think, but I think in general, trust is a super important component of our new business of public cloud. Because if we don't do this well, then if nobody trusts us, we don't have any customers.
Yeah, but on the other hand, what's the alternative?
No, I agree. No, there are still alternatives, but we used to have, and that's the story I just wanted to share, is we used to have an NTO, a National Technology Officer here in Microsoft Netherlands, and he always gave the story of Volvo building the most secure cars, right? That was their goal and their ambition. And that's true. But if you give it to somebody who drives with it blindfolded while eating, while calling 200 kilometers per hour on the highway, and an accident happened, that still happened with that Volvo. Indeed. So it is also in relation for the driver and the car Volvo in this example, that it's a two-way. And so the same goes for our public cloud. We give you services, components, infrastructure, and everything else that we do everything we can to make it secure and trusted. But it's still up to you to build a solution on top of that uses best practices in security. That is, it could still go wrong, and then we should work together if it goes wrong, right? Indeed. And I think that's the basis for this one.
Yeah, and I think I was just in a conversation about the AI Act, which is the new European Union regulation around AI and models and all of that stuff. And there they also have the discussion, what if someone takes the model that we created, that we fully validated and risk classified for the EU, and so it's all good, but then they abuse it for some purpose that we explicitly told them not to.
Yeah.
At some point, we can't help that.
No. And that's going to happen.
And that's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, Excel is also abused.
Yeah, but it's a nice thing. Is that you're saying? Is that that's also in contracts?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like the 10 Commandments. You shall not steal.
No.
But still, people steal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So of course, we trust, and I think in this case, where I'm really happy with, it's not only Azure. To be fair, but Azure is doing it quite well, but also the others.
Yeah.
Everyone is trying to explain their utmost in security, in compliance, and that, to be fair, is forced by European legislation to get it fixed.
No, and you asked a valid question. What's the alternative? I mean, we still have companies and governmental departments that think that they can have a better and more secure system if they do themselves. So that is still there as well.
Yeah, but that probably are the same people who don't want to change and using happy flows, non-happy flows. And building a silent organization.
And I think for us, the reason why we put so much focus on all of those certifications is because it's a black box. So the only way for us to tell all our customers, this is the way we run and this is how we secure everything.
Yeah, but to be really fair, this is what I see. Mm-hmm. Everything is written on the website of Microsoft on compliance. Is written by legal people.
Fair enough. Nice feedback.
That should not be. That should be written by people with a little bit of humor. Is that you're actually going to read?
Yeah, I agree.
Because if you start with, let's say, the first part with all in capitals, things like that. Yeah, I'll stop reading after 2 sentences.
Fair enough.
And it's my job.
I'll share our privacy rules with you and see how far you can get, and then I'll read your DPA and see how far.
It's simple. It should be with humor and with a lot of examples.
Agreed. Last one, because I think we can finish this conversation and do all 8. My data center has over 90 compliance offerings. And yours?
We're using your data center, so we have that as well.
Is that important?
No, if you had 60, it was also fine. Yeah.
So it's not important.
It's like what we said before. It's the black box.
Yeah.
Of course, it's important, but just an insight. Do you know how many countries have a form of privacy legislation?
I don't.
Far too few.
Yeah.
I think so.
What do you think? How many countries? We have 196 countries.
Yeah. So outside of the EU, because they're all covered under GDPR, probably 2,000, 3,000.
No, it's much more.
Yeah.
It's 127 countries has a form of
Okay.
legislation. Has a form
More than expected. Yeah.
getting it implemented. Yeah. And some are really heavy, some are robust, some are light. Yeah. But Canada has legislation. Brazil has legislation. Mexico has legislation. Australia has legislation. Japan has legislation. So I think and there are also other things about data. So online marketing, the cookie legislation, is embedded all around the globe almost.
Yeah. And still not benefiting the users, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Indeed. On the other hand, the online marketing, what you can do, like profiling, things like that, that's even in Thailand. Yeah. It's not mandatory. There is in Thailand there is mandatory to have a data privacy officer. Yeah. So I think we are looking at sometimes from a European perspective, but there are a lot of other things happening around the globe. Yeah. So that you need to have 90 compliance offerings, I understand. Yeah. I understand. But if you had, let's say...
The good news is we implement them globally. Most of the times, if available.
But the big question is, you have those offerings. Yeah. What did you actually do?
Yeah, so it's also sometimes just very easy describing what process you have in place if something goes wrong, or that you have a yearly check on how you do stuff.
Most of these are audited by external auditors, and there's a lot of stuff involved.
But what you see on the website is I see 90 compliance offerings, I see a certificate, and I see a great badge, like I'm a military with all my badges, and it doesn't say anything.
No, I agree. And so for us, it was also funny in preparation of this conversation is that we as Microsoft show this a lot, right? We tell a lot. If we talk about Azure, we talk about trust, we talk about security, and we talk about the compliance offerings we have.
It's a check in the box.
Yeah. But it's part of something, and it doesn't say anything, right? Yeah. So it's somewhere.
Yeah, and it's almost like infrastructure. Yeah. It needs to be there. Yeah. But everybody has it. Yeah. So,
but I don't think one of your customers ever asked if we are ISO 27.
No, probably only in like RFPs and things like that. You might
get some. Even then. Okay. Even then. So what you do then is you got the information. So you share what you have, basically. So what I will make a reference then to you guys. Yeah. Because you have already written it down.
Yeah. All the legal stuff's there.
I'm
99% sure
80% sure
they don't read it.
Is that they don't read it.
Yeah, and if they start reading it after Alinea 1, they got
distracted. Unless they have some lawyers who need to earn their...
But on the other hand, what they ask, hey, where have you placed your data? Yep. Where are your servers? What are your servers? And if you say it's Azure, we have them in Europe, we have them in Central America, and we have them in Asia somewhere, Singapore, then that's basically, okay.
Pim. We have come to the end of this conversation. Cool. I really enjoyed it. Is there anything you like to change, add, or withdraw from this conversation you've just shared with us?
No, I think there's only one thing to be added is if you really want that people going to reach security and compliance and things like that, give a little bit more humor in those conversations that you actually want to read.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the feedback.
Very good feedback.
Yeah, great feedback.
I like that. Yeah.
I'm going to thank you for having this conversation, Pim. We will be, working together as partners. Yeah. Looking forward to that. We will do probably more of these conversations. We have a new one coming up in not too long, which we're looking forward to. Can we already say who it is?
You know.
Yeah, I know, but can we say? Yeah, of course we can. We will have Peter Ake from Pandora, who has also built a really nice solution on top of Azure. We will have another conversation on governance, security, trust, and everything else. See you next time, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.